I'm just checking something real quick.
Let's go.
You're right, Steve. I don't have too much hope for this. But it was better than
Says
the senior
live.
center.
All right. You're good to go, Mr. Chairman?
All set?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the April 10th, 2024 meeting to order. Please rise, pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Noreen, can we do the roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Claffey? Commissioner Fox?
Here.
Commissioner Minor?
Here.
Commissioner Nafis?
Here.
Commissioner Pascarelli?
Here.
Chairman Sobieski?
Here.
Commissioner Woods?
Here.
Commissioner Droz?
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Here.
Commissioner Wakama?
Here.
Thank you,
You're all
Noreen.
You're welcome.
I'd like to seat Commissioner Droz for Commissioner Claffey. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Planner, approval of the minutes or the agenda rather.
So on the agenda, one item that has been provided in front of you is an email from the applicant's representative for 250 Cedarwood Lane, petition 324. The email reads, the property owner of the property of 250 Cedarwood Lane has rescinded his permission for the applicant Raymond Perez to proceed with this application for re-subdivision of 250 Cedarwood Lane. In light of this, I am hereby withdrawing this application on behalf of Mr. Perez. So that was from Mr. Alan Bongiovanni. So that item is scheduled for public hearing tonight. However, the applicant has withdrawn. So that item should not be opened as a matter of procedure, and each town does it in a slightly different way with a withdrawal. If you just accept the withdrawal as is, it'll be noted in the record. If you would like to add an item under new business for accepting the withdrawal, that can be done as well. That's kind of belt and suspenders. To add an item to the agenda, the bylaws typically talk about adding them, not being able to add 5 days before. However, that's typically for new items itself. This is an existing item on the agenda and it's a shift. So if you would like the belt and suspenders approach, I would recommend moving it to adding an item for new business for that withdrawal. Or if you're okay with just how, I believe how it's been done in the past too. I talked with Eric that we just accept it. That's okay
You
too.
want to let it go?
We just accept it, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just,
Okay,
any questions from any of the commissioners? No? Okay, we're going to accept that.
okay, so that'll be accepted and as I said, noted for the minutes and the record that during the agenda that setting of the agenda that's item again, petition 324 under item B under public hearing will not be opened as it has been withdrawn by the applicant.
Okay. Okay,
And sorry,
I'm
the one
sorry.
item I add to, and they will actually come up. So this is the request for the Payne Road portion of the 333 Berlin Turnpike for the residential. They have withdrawn and they're actually here tonight to give you an update. They are withdrawing their request to modify the gate, modify the approval. We'll get into that when we get into it, but OSTA has responded and it should hopefully be next week when it comes. So therefore the gate shouldn't be necessary. So they have withdrawn that request as well.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Planner. Next is public participation. Anybody wishing to bring up any items not on the agenda? Please come up.
I have an item to read, Mr. Chairman, if no one else is available. I can.
Go ahead.
This was an email that was received from Joan Alice Taylor, 372 Willard Avenue. She wanted it read into the record, so I will read it. It's dated March 27th. Dear Mr. Dixon, I sent this letter to the town council members and was asked to send a copy to you. Will you please forward this to the Town Planning and Zoning and the Conservation Commission, since they are the first voice in their opinions regarding town development? Since I sent this letter, I checked the federal regulations, and we are required to have 1/3 of our space be open space designated for community use, wetlands, and or wildlife. I trust that you will forward this to the commissioners. Joan Alice Taylor. Dear esteemed council members, thank you for serving our town. I am writing to voice my concern regarding what is occurring with our remaining open space and wetlands in Newington. I was on the Conservation Commission many years ago, and unless something major has changed, there is a certain amount of land that is required to be left as open space and wetlands when building and development is undertaken in an area. I could be incorrect, but I believe that the land in the Lowe's Plaza that is located on either side of the entrance roads driveways was required to be left as open space for conservation and to maintain the wildlife habitat. Yesterday, a dozen or so wild turkeys were observed trying to get across to the space there that now has a fence around it. They were young and adult turkeys, and they were almost likely seeking food. This is very sad and, in my mind, shameful situation. Newington is a 14 square mile town with extremely little open space left, and certainly less that is favorable for the remaining wildlife. I am very concerned about the balance of development with open space, wetlands in our small town. People complain about the wildlife in their yards, etc., but when the humans are encroaching on wildlife habitat, no one complains. Well, I am complaining. The busway has taken a huge area of wildlife habitat from the town, and cars are hitting the deer crossing Willard Avenue because their habitat has been taken and they are seeking grazing land. I had 2 dead deer in my yard last winter in 2023 as a result. I am seeing a huge degree of development occurring all over Newington, seemingly without regard for maintaining any open space. Either the Conservation Commission is not doing its job, the regulations have changed, or no one cares to stand up to the developers and say no. There are empty buildings all around that can be repurposed or torn down and something suitable built in their space. I think the Keeney building is a good example of that, if it gets back on track, as it will remain a business location and provide tax dollars to the town. I doubt anything I have written will make any difference, but I needed to express my opinion as a 4th generation Newingtonite and someone who believes in maintaining the balance of nature of which we and the wildlife are a part. I'm asking the town council to be more diligent when overseeing the Town Planning and Zoning Commission and the Conservation Commission to make sure the regulations regarding open space and wetlands are adhered to as they should be. Yours truly, Joan Alice Taylor, 372 Willard Avenue, and Taylor Therapy Center, 9 Elmwood Court.
Thank you. All right. This is nothing else. Zoning officers report.
If there's any questions I will answer, I will say, the item on 19 Sunnybrook Road, the vehicle was finally removed earlier in the week. And 79 Florence has been referred to the town attorney for possible action.
Okay.
Any other questions from any commissioners?
Any other questions, commissioners? Any questions at home? No? Okay.
Doesn't appear to be.
All right. Remarks by commissioners. Any remarks by any of the commissioners? No. Okay. Public hearing, petition 1-24. Want to read, Mr. Planner, or?
Yep. So again, we go over the procedures for the public hearing. The order of proceedings of the public hearing shall be convening by the chairperson, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or commissioner designated by the chairperson to act in their stead, presentation by the applicant, and the town planner report on the application. So the first one, I don't know if Judy, you want to read it in, or if you'd like me to read it.
Sure.
Okay.
So, petition, this is a petition 124, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Petition 1-24, special permit, section 6.2.5 for a freestanding business sign at 240 Payne Road in the PD Plan Development Zone. Applicant Sign Pro Incorporated, owner Shuko USA, LLLP. Contact Christine Bracci Di Ferro.
Is the applicant here?
Hello, can
Leave
you
the
hear
app.
me?
Oh, okay,
The applicant is online, yes.
all right.
Hi there. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Hi, thank you for hearing this special permit proposal for a ground sign at 240 Payne Road. The proposed sign is 48 inches high by 84 inches wide, about 28 square feet per face. It is double-sided, so about 57 square feet, I believe. It is internally illuminated. The illumination will only show through the copy of the sign. The sign also shows the names of both tenants, Schuco and Steel Wrist, as well as the street address. The overall height of the sign is 6 feet, and the setback was revised to avoid the drainage easement. So the setback is now 21 feet from the street line. I believe, oh, thank you for showing
Yep.
that. I do have an updated plot plan that shows all the signage now on it with this new wall sign we just had permitted as well, if you would like a copy of that. But otherwise, if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
So just for clarification, the original sign was proposed within a drainage easement. So the town engineer requested it be slid just to the north to get out of that easement, and they have sent me a tentative revised plan that does demonstrate that.
Okay.
And I'll just add that because we received, that tentative plan and afterwards, and it didn't go out in the packets, that staff understanding that it would be moved would still be recommending a condition that it be moved out of the drainage easement or right of way. And that is the only condition that staff recommends for this application.
All right. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anybody wishing to speak against?
No one online has their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion that we close and move to old business.
So motion we close petition 1-24, move it to old business for.
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Droz. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's a little out of order, but I actually didn't read in the full public hearing notice. So I'd like to do that if I could right now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, not a problem, just for the record. So again, this was published in the Rare Reminder, March 28th, April 4th. Notice Town Plan and Zoning Commission, notice of public hearing, April 10th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Notice is hereby given that the Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing in Council Chambers, Room 103 at Town Hall, 200 Garfield Street, Newington, Connecticut, on Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, to consider the following petitions. Petition 1-24, special permit 6.2.5 for a freestanding business sign at 240 Payne Road in the PD zone, Plan Development Zone, applicant Sign Pro Incorporated, owner Schuco USA LLP. Contact Christine. How do you pronounce that?
Bracci Di Ferro.
Yeah, sorry, Christine.
No worries, thank you.
Yep. Then petition 324, re-subdivision at 250 Cedarwood Lane in R20 residential zone and the BBT zone, Business Park and Turnpike zone, applicant Raymond Perez, owner Thomas A. Leach. Contact Raymond Perez. Petition 524, special permit for an interior lot at 204-208 Church Street in the R20 zone residential zone. Applicant and owner PAC Property Management LLC. Contact Donald Pack Jr. Petition 6-24, re-subdivision at 204-208 Church Street in the R20 zone residential zone. Applicant owner PAC Property Management. Contact Donald Pack Jr. This public hearing will be a Zoom hybrid webinar meeting. Information on how to attend will be posted on the town website. Link follows. These petitions and related material are available for public inspection at the town planner's office, Town Hall, Room 204, and through the published agenda at the Town Plan and Zoning Commission Agenda Center. Link follows. Persons who require accommodation to participate in this meeting should contact the town planner. 860-665-8578 with the email not less than 24 hours prior to the public hearing. Submitted, Paul Dixon, Town Planner. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion that's been made and seconded to close it, move it to old business. Okay, thank you. Next petition, As,
Need a vote on that, Mr.
oh,
Chairman.
I'm sorry, you're right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Next petition, Mr. Planner, is,
Yep, so petition 324, as we noted, is no longer on the agenda as has been withdrawn, so move to item C. Petition 5-25, special permit for an interior lot, section 3.4.9 at 204 to 208 Church Street in the R20 residential zone. Applicant and owner PAC Property Management LLC, contact Donald Pack Jr. And Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would request that both item C and item, actually, they're both actually on item C, 1 and 2, the way they did it, again, be heard together. So that's also petition 6-24 for the re-subdivision at 204, 208 Church Street in the R20 zone, residential zone. Applicant owner PAC Property Management LLC, contact Donald Pack Jr. The main reason is one of these cannot happen without the other.
okay,
With the interior lot and with the subdivision, it's tied together. So if they could be heard together, I would appreciate that.
all right, thank you, Mr. Planner. Okay, do you want to read this or are we all set? We're all set?
Yes, I read them in.
All right,
Read both of them in, and you have the applicant in front of you.
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Good
you have
evening,
the floor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. For the record, my name is Alan Bongiovanni. I'm a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut with an office address at 170 Payne Road in Newington. I'm representing Pack Management LLC in these two applications before you this evening. As the planner had stated, 0524 is a special permit to allow an interior lot for section 3.4.9 of the regulations. And petition 06-24 for a re-subdivision because this is splitting an existing lot of record into two pieces that's already been subdivided in the past. The subject property is about a acre and a half of land on the east side of Church Street. The existing house is a multifamily, it's 202 and 204 to 208 Church Street. In the 50s, this house was approved by a variance to become a three-family home. That's sits on the house, on the property. I'm sure you guys are all aware. It's a older colonial home, very deep, that's been there since the beginning of time, probably. It's a very old home. Our proposal is to divide this to create one more additional lot, having not the required frontage, but 56 feet of frontage on Church Street as our access way. And then it widens out to the full-size lot as we get to the eastern portion of the property. As submitted, and I think you'll look at if you haven't looked at the town planner's report, we meet and or exceed all of the requirements of the regulations for an interior lot, area, access way, setbacks, all of the requirements, including the subdivision regulations for this application. It's to construct a single family home. The property slopes from the east towards Church Street. That's a gentle grade. It is surrounded on the north by a border of cedar trees. Along the east, there's a stand of arborvitae that's probably 25 or 30 feet tall. It's a very dense year-round hedge, which wraps around to a portion of the southern portion of the site. There's some existing vegetation and a large maple tree. And then as you go back towards Church Street, there's again another mature hedge of arborvitae. So it's well screened from the neighbors. Again, it's the same use as the neighbors on three sides, with the exception of the Mediplex or the former Mediplex site, which is located, the building's located a good distance from this property. As I said, it's in the R20 zone. The property is serviced by sewer and water, MDC sewer and water, that is in Church Street. We are proposing, again, a single family home. We have a typical notation on a subdivision that the house is shown is usually generic to show that this lot can be developed. This one's a little unique in that One of the members of PAC Property Management was actually going to build his own home. So on sheet 2, the utilities improvements plan actually shows what the proposal is for the house location, driveway location, utility services, grading and such. We've also incorporated in the plans detailed erosion and sediment control so that during construction, there's no runoffs creating problems on silt and sediment traveling off the site. It's a fairly basic application. Again, it's for a single family home. Historically, the regulations for interior lots have changed in the town of Newington. There was a time when only one rear lot was allowed. And then there was a period of time when all rear lots were eliminated from the regulations. You couldn't create anymore. I think around 2016, interior lots were brought back into the regulations. And at that time, it was determined by the commission that up to 2 lots, interior lots could be created on a single parcel. The property to the east, in early 2000s, the town planner's report has the exact date, was subdivided property by of William and Karen Selwaki. That was the only rear lot allowed at the time, and the rest of the property was left as is. Since the regulations have changed, the owners of PAC Property Management have decided that it's a good location for one of their members to live, and that's why we're here to propose this. Under the special permit, there's some criteria that I need to enumerate for the record under 5.2.6. And those are A, the need for the proposed use in the proposed location. It's residentially zoned land. As we all know, there's a housing need in the country. This is no different. Town of Newington suffers the same plight as the entire nation does. And this is a location that is zoned for residential. So we're proposing a residential home. Item B, the existing and probable future character of the neighborhood in which the use is located. It is residential. It will continue to be residential unless something by the town changes drastically. This is an item that the courts have determined is not appropriate to be asked in an application, but it's still in our regulations. Item C, the size, type, and location of main and accessory buildings in relation to one another and in relation to other structures in the vicinity. We have a single home proposed on this lot. It is well within the setbacks required by the zone. And I think page 2, the utilities improvement plan, show that we have no abutting buildings or properties that have structures that are violating our setbacks or our property lines. So we comply with this regulation. Item D talks about traffic circulation. That's for large retail developments. It's really not applicable to this application. Item E, the availability of public sewer and water and the possible overloading of water and sewerage systems and the adequacy of existing offsite stormwater systems serving the property to safely accommodate any increase in drainage. As I stated, there is MDC sewer and water. The MDC is obligated by law to provide sewer and water service to the site. If there was a capacity issue with the MDC, I think we will all have heard about it by now. With regards to drainage, I met with staff prior to preparing the plans, the town engineer. We talked about the grading and the drainage, and it was determined that a single family home would not fall under the full regulations of a subdivision. But in discussions with the planner, he talked about or requested an infiltration basin, a low area off the driveway that we could maybe accommodate some percolation into the soil. So we've added that to the plan. F talks about signs, location of display signs and such. There are none. This is a single family residence. And then safeguards to protect the adjacent property and the neighborhood in general from detriment, including but not limited to proper buffering. As everything around us is residential zone, a buffer is not required, but this is a lot that has 75–80% of the 3 sides that we do abut other properties fully buffered at this time with year-round vegetative buffers and hedges that screen this property very well from the neighbors. With that, the only other item I have is sidewalks. Per our subdivision regulations, sidewalks are required. I submitted through the staff to the chairman a request for a waiver of the sidewalks along the west side of Church Street. I believe for the entire length there's a sidewalk. The regulations talk about on arterial streets, it's desirable to have sidewalks on both sides of the streets. The issue here is we have very little sidewalk on the east side of the street. It stops at our south property line and goes about 2 or 3 properties to the south. And then you have large expanse along the Young Farm with no sidewalk. And then everything to the north, all the way up to New Britain Avenue, there's no sidewalks on our side of the street. Looking at the plan of conservation and development, this is an area that's not listed as any priority for sidewalks. And to further that, on the corner of Halloran and Church Street, about 2 years ago, the town for John Patterson School redid that the western parking lot. They created a new parking lot, redid the entrance over there. And during that construction and rehabilitation of that area, they chose not to put sidewalks in there. And that is on the same side of the street. I think that speaks to the fact that the town probably will never infill these areas. And to add additional sidewalk to that, it becomes a burden on the homeowner.
Thank you.
Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners have any questions? Alan, just to let you know, Eddie Carey used to live there.
Yep, I originally did this, created the rear lot 30 years or so ago for Dottie Carey.
Yeah, he was full-time when I was part-time.
Yep.
All right, hearing none, anybody else wishes to speak in favor of this petition? Anybody online?
No, but Mr. Chairman, I would like to
I'm sorry.
add a couple. So, in reviewing, as, Mr. Bongiovanni noted, regarding the sidewalks, I did have a discussion with the town engineer. He actually supports putting in the sidewalks. The main difference, again, and I do acknowledge that it's not shown as a priority area. The area south of the existing sidewalk, again, the sidewalk starts at this property at the border, goes south towards Deming Young, stops ahead of it. That area between where that sidewalk stops and to Deming Young is it's like an intermediate desire, not the immediate desire, but it's in the POCD is that is an area where we would look at putting sidewalks and want to have sidewalks. This is a continuation of that up until it reaches the intersecting side street that's directly across from this property. Again, it's up to the commission regarding the waiver if you choose to grant it or not. But in talking with the town engineer, he recommended actually having sidewalks in. As said, things change, different town engineers come in, and in talking with Chris, that was his recommendation.
I have a question,
Jim.
Commissioner Pascarelli. Would it be contiguous with an existing sidewalk if a sidewalk would be?
So if I may, Mr.
Constructed,
Chairman,
yes.
there's sidewalk, Eric, you have the plan.
Yep, 1 second.
Go to page 2.
You can see.
So you see the dark shaded area, that's our construction access or tracking mat. But just south of that, just below that property line, that's where the sidewalk ends, and that's opposite Windmill Lane. So it goes from there, like I say, down 2, 3, maybe it's 4 individual properties.
Yep.
Till it gets to the Deming Young Farm where
Yep.
there's no sidewalk.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, that was. just-
Any other questions from the commissioners? All right.
Quick question,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman. Sidewalks to the north of the property or no?
There are none,
All the way up to Halloran?
all the way up to New Britain Avenue. So bypassing Halloran all the way up to.
I thought you said, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Alan.
Mr. Woods.
at the end of the sidewalk now, it exists on the neighbor's property to the south.
No,
No, where the sidewalk is now, where it ends.
yes,
Is there a handicap ramp that would take you in a crosswalk?
No,
That would take you across the
it
street.
just terminates. It's the
Dead ends
typical
right there,
4-foot
right?
walk, dead ends at the property line.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the petition?
No one online has their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone wishing to speak against the petition? Please come up. Please come up and state your name. I'm sorry?
Were you asking about who was
In favor.
against?
The small town.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bill Salwaki. I live at 202 Church Street behind the property of Butter. And I'm here with myself and my wife.
Okay.
Give me a minute to get my stuff here. Obviously, I'm on the Butter. I got the letter from the planning department indicating that there was a special permit going to be requested and a re-subdivision of that lot to put a interior lot again. So I was a little surprised with that. And I have 3 reasons that even though the regulations call for many, many things for a subdivision and for lot size and zoning regulations, a lot of them are met, but I believe that there were 3 reasons that didn't meet, and I'm here to talk about those briefly, and that's why I'm here. A little background on myself. I have a building background, construction background, design background, and engineering background. And I'm retired now, but I do understand site plans and building lines and stuff like that. And I'm speaking from some experience with all that. Back in the 80s, 1980s, I was had 3 preschool children and was looking to buy or come into a new house. And I knew of Newington. I really liked it. I had relatives that lived here. And so I looked around and was looking for a large lot that was private and rear lot maybe, but looking a while, I could find nothing. At the same time, I knew Dot Carey, who was worked for the town as in the town clerk's office, and she told me that she was going in for a subdivision to her property with 2 rear lots. I wasn't interested in 2 rear lots because usually one is in front of the other, and I didn't like that. But anyway, she went to she had the application put in, and it was approved, but it was approved for a single rear lot, and she could not get the 2 rear lots. So when she came back to me, I talked to her and she told me that. And I said, well, how about in the future if you do something like that? And she said, no, it was discussed at the TPC meeting that it could not be done. So I looked into that very close. I looked at the TPC meeting minutes for that meeting, and I saw it written about that. And so in 1986, 87, I believe, I bought the lot, I built the house, and I've been living there for 36 years with my wife, and my kids that grew up went to Patterson, Wallace, and just lived there for 36 years and plan on living for another 50 years there too. So, my first discussion or my first comment would be, I like to have a pass out. Can I do that? Just something really quick here.
Exhibit.
Okay.
Exhibit 1.
What these are a copy of the October 1985 TPZ minutes that discussed
Yeah, I know.
Dr. Perry's application for the rear lot, rear lot. There's one small section of this I want to read. I've included the whole thing. It's about 6-7 pages, but on page 1257 I just want to read a few lines from there, and I will. And I've highlighted them, and on 1257 I underlined them. And this is what I read back then about another rear lot being provided, being asked for later on in the future. Commissioner Ambler said, this question was, I think, there was any thought of ever again in the future coming up with a request for another rear lot. And somebody named Mr. Bongiovanni said, no, that's prohibited by zoning. We can't. The code administrator, Mr. Payne, said that's prohibited. They had drawn it in out that way for staff to pass it. No, it can't be done. Commissioner Patel, it can't be done now. Commissioner Administrator Payne said, and it can't be done later. Mr. Ambler said, you can have a front lot, but you can't have another rear one. So with that bit of discussion in the minutes, I bought the lot, built, and been living there. So I think I'd like that into consideration, that I took the word of the commission that nothing would be done in the future. And that's my first comment. My second one is has to do with the lot area. And again, I have a small handout. And what I have on this outline is basically a copy of the site plan, which just includes the lot and doesn't include all the wordage and stuff. And there's an issue that I want to discuss about that. And the issue is the lot area. As you see this, there's a couple of things that I think need to be addressed. One is on the north side of the property, which is at the top of the page, there's a right-of-way area, which is my right-of-way to get from Church Street to my lot in the back. Back then, 40-something years ago, it was required that a right-of-way easement would be provided and not count as part of the property land. So it was done as a right-of-way easement forever. And I know that's changed in the zoning, that now you can, or they recommend purchasing that, but that access way is not included as part of the land area, which is good, because with a 400-foot right-of-way off the street times 20 feet, that's 8,000 feet that would come out of the lot area, and that's not good. So I show that lot area, that right-of-way area, as 2,766 square feet. Now, in that lot area, I have my driveway, which it's a 20-foot right-of-way. My driveway is 10 feet wide. And with that, in that right-of-way, I have underground sewer, I have underground electric, underground water, and underground telephone cable that goes from Church Street up the right-of-way into my house, all underground, which was required back then. And the reason I think that that should not be included at all is if you look at what I've passed out on the property, new lot that's proposed, I've highlighted everywhere where they show a side yard. Up in front to Church Street, it's 35 foot. Going up the access way, it's 10-foot side yard on both sides, the north side, south side. On the sidelines, it's 10-foot sideline. On the rear lot, it's a 35-foot side yard. And in the front yard, it's a 35-foot front yard. Now, what's not shown here is the side yard for the north side. It was just left off and not included in the site plan. Now, normally you'd put that 10-foot side yard 10 feet from the boundary line, and at 11 feet from the boundary line, you could build. It'd be part of the building area. But 10 feet from the north boundary line is the center of my driveway. And from 10 feet to 20 feet of that area is where my underground utilities are. So what I did is in red, I drew a 10-foot side yard where I think it should be. And if it's there, what I think happens is that with that side yard there, that's taking into account that the right-of-way area shouldn't be included in the building lot, because the building area, you can't put a side yard there and you can't have land to build there. So I think in total, it reduces the right-of-way area by 2,766 square feet. And in total, off to the upper left there, it makes the lot area 27,429 square feet, which is less than the 30,000 square feet required. So that is, that's my second item. You know, all kinds of good stuff for you. I have one more handout for you there. It's okay. In this, oops, excuse me, in this handout, I want to address an issue that the interior lot has with the front lot, the original house on the street. What's been shown on the site plan, I think is very impactful, are a couple of ways of the lot, the rear lot area has a funny jog in it that it cuts into the driveway of the existing 204, 208 Church Street and removes quite a bit of it. It removes about 38% of it. So I've always noticed over the years I've lived there, and I know that 204, 208 Church Street is approved for three apartments, and the apartments require, I think, 1.5 spaces per apartment. And I think that 1.5, 4.5, I think you need to round that up to 5. So you need 5 parking spaces there. And I've never, the parking lot originally, it's crowded, but it's doable right now. But that blue area I'm showing is what is proposed to be removed, and the yellow area there is what will be remaining. So I think the best way to show that was I went and I took some pictures of the over 3 days of that parking area. Now, I didn't go on to 204, 208 Church Street. I stayed off the property and shot into the picture of it. But on Thursday, you can see that there's 4 cars there. And the picture is the same day, but one is a little closer to the parking area, and the top one shows the whole house. But as you notice that besides the 3 cars on the lot, there's also a car off the pavement up there by the house. On Saturday, and these were all taken dinner time, I think, on those days. On Saturday, there was 5 cars there. And again, same kind of picture showing the whole house with the house on this, off the pavement there, and 4 cars in the parking lot. And 2 of those cars, similar to the Thursday shot, are on the area where the parking lot's going to be removed. Okay? And on the last day, was Sunday, it was in the afternoon, late afternoon, again, was 4 cars, different parking. But again, that parking area is going to be removed, quite a bit of it, 38% of it. And I feel that in the subdivision, you're making a new lot and making provisions for that, but you also impacted the lot, the building lot, 1A, the front one, by reducing what I believe the parking area so that it is less than required for having 3 apartments there. And there's no parking indicators, but it's also an area where you've got a 100-foot driveway to Church Street, and you need an area to back around to turn your car up at the top and drive out the lot instead of backing down 100 feet, where usually you can back onto the street if your house is a lot closer. So that's the third issue I have. And I think that's needs to be addressed anyway. And I thought the best way to address it was to show the parking there. So that's about it. Other than that area of my last statement is not really a zoning rig, but that area of Newington is kind of unique. It is, there's a lot of different areas in Newington where there's large lots, small lots, rear lots, apartments and all, but that area is a little unique in that when those lots were made there from 204 to 208 Church Street, the lot went from Church Street 550 feet back to the school property. And it was about a 2.5 acre lot, which is pretty good size. The next house going north belonged to Eddie's, and it was also had a backyard going back over 550 feet back. So you had a very, very large lot there. And the next one, I think went back about 550 feet, the next lot on Church Street. And then there was 2 more lots that were a little narrower, but went all the way back to the school and were maybe 450 square feet for going to the back lot. And even back then, when we first moved there, that lot that's closest to Patterson there, they had horses on it. It was a nice big lot and something a little different. And it was part of the character. But I think Church Street is, that area anyway, is something that needs to be preserved. And I don't feel that putting a rear lot behind the old Dot Carey farmhouse is going to really be attractive. And one last thing is that back area there was the backyard of 3 apartments or 3 families. And lots of times during the summer, they would go out and have picnics there, set up a tent, have cookouts and spend the nights there. So that area got used as a backyard, and having 3 apartments, 3 families, I think it's nice to have a little bit bigger backyard to do that. And it was used and it's been used, and now it's all going away. And even the side yard to that, the south side yard there, which was an area that was used for the people that lived there, is all gone with the lot, because the lot's basically going from 1.5 acres down to about a little more than 0.5 acre. They're losing quite a bit of land. So thanks for your time. That's what I've wanted to say, and appreciate being able to say it. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to try and answer them.
Yep. So what I'd like to do is show for people's benefit. I did go out there and take some pictures of the site today. I know people are generally familiar with the site. So what you have here is along Church Street looking in. You can see the one tree there that is actually, I believe that one's proposed to be removed with 2 new trees being placed within, or is that that actually might be the, yeah, that one that stays. There's one that gets, anyways. So that's looking in from Church Street. This will be around about where the driveway is. Again, it will be actually to the right of that tree as you're looking at it. So moving along into the lot. Again, moving up kind of where the driveway area is, you can see the stake out towards the left. Very barely kind of in line with the truck that's parked there.
And that's the area that's being taken away from the lot 1A and given to lot 1B and which is a very nice area. And, you know, I've lived there and my house is behind that row of trees and most people never even knew that.
All right. We're all set?
All set?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
just gonna present to the
The
commission.
planner's
So-
got some comments, that's all.
So as
Okay.
you can see, kind of looking forward, as you see the other pictures, those are the 4 driveway bays that exist on the property now. The potential removal, again, this is something to potentially discuss with the applicant, whether it's actually going to be the full removal all the way, whether they're kind of working within that property line. Again, as noted, there is a little unusual jog in the property line that is needed, I think, to make the property area. Again, I'll let the applicant discuss that. We had discussed that area in the past. It does need to be devoted to this lot to make the lot area. A question could be, you know, what's happening with that last garage bay? If the pavement's removed in front of it, it basically becomes a shed for all intents and purposes. But you can see kind of that going back on the lot a little more. This is taken in kind of the back corner. You can see not all the way in the rear of the lot. Yeah, that's proposed. But again, you can see the lot that'll be in front. This will be kind of the view from the house that's put on there. I believe that stake actually, yep, right there. I believe it actually says proposed house corner. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the house is proposed to be placed. You can see where the driveway would come in next to the existing driveway. And kind of moving through the site, this is a look at that rear buffer that's between the 2 properties. It's noted in the staff report that there's actually there are deed restrictions between the 2 property owners regarding that buffer. Then again, the town doesn't enforce the deed restrictions. These are private deed restrictions between the 2. However, as a comment, staff recommended that that be just noted on the plan. Again, anyone buying it in the future, it highlights it. It's the same thing with an easement. Private easements, we don't enforce, but we require them to be noted on the plan. So this gives you an idea of what that buffer looks like in the rear of the property. This is taken again from the side in the rear properties at the edge of their property. Kind of seeing, you can see that buffer in between the house in the rear and the area of the proposed lot in the front. And then just looking, I think this is the last, but you can kind of see this would be looking down the driveway, that property line, and then the proposed house would be over to the left. So just kind of give you a little more bearings on the lot and looking at the amount of space. Again, staff, as far as the public hearing goes, it's recommended that if you, just as a reminder, everyone knows, but if you do have any additional questions, or if you would like any additional information from staff, or would like to see any information from the applicant, that a public hearing should be left open if there is additional information that needs to be put in. I would also recommend the discussion regarding the sidewalk waiver, because if there's additional information that the commission needs regarding that, if there's any more research, pictures, any more something from the town engineer, that would have to be incorporated into the record. Again, we wouldn't want something incorporated post-record. The public hearing is open and everything should be within the public hearing for new information submitted. So again, that's what the staff main ones are with the sidewalk that is there. We review the other aspects of the subdivision regulations, and we do find it compliant. The main question regarding is, again, the sidewalk, and then that potential of, you know, looking at the property, how is everything configured, and any comments from the commission regarding that.
Thank you. Any questions? Anybody else wishing to speak
Yes.
against? We're still working on against, sorry, but anybody else wishing to speak against the petition? Okay, hearing none.
No one online, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
No one online has their hand raised.
Mr. Mondragon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Mr. Salwaki's comments are well taken. The first one, I did say it. I admit it. I said there would be no other lots built there because that's what the regulation said. I am not the commission. I didn't change them. Some of you probably were on that commission when they made those changes. They enabled that to be done. The property owner is entitled to work within the regulations that are in force at this time. As far as the lot area, Mr. Salwaki talks about his right of way across the property. There's no provision in our regulations to discount the area of a lot because there's an easement on it. If that was the case, there'd be a lot of non-conforming lots around. We don't show the 10-foot side yard because in essence, we've got a 20-foot side yard and that's his easement that's there. We can build right up to that easement. He suggests that maybe we should have a 10-foot easement setback from that. We could actually build right up to the 20-foot easement. We do meet the area requirements. The total lot is 39,756 square feet. The house lot itself, without the access way, is 30,195 square feet with a minimum of 30,000 required. Our access way, as I said earlier, is 56 feet wide by 160 feet deep. It comes out to be 9,561 square feet. Again, a total of 39,756 square feet. It does meet the regulations. With regards to the parking, we did remove part of the parking lot to accommodate the lot, and that's because you have a 5-foot zoning setback for a driveway. I talked with the owners of the property that manage the property. That end bay is not a necessity for tenants to use. They use it as a shed for their own equipment and things like that, lawn care. So that's why we had shown the driveway where it is to be removed. There are options. If there was an issue with parking on the property, my clients would not have suggested that this would be an acceptable method. If some point in the future that they find that they need more pavement, more parking area, they do have areas outside of the 5 foot from the property line that they can do that. They could also leave some of the pavement in front of that end garage bay that they're proposing to remove. That is something they'll make a decision at later. Thank you.
Questions from the commissioners?
Steve, what do you think?
Oh, yes, Commissioner Droz.
Commissioner Joe, just a quick question. Do those garages, are those considered part of the 1.5 spaces per unit? Like the garage itself, because everything we've seen shows cars outside.
We don't typically, in town, we don't typically consider the parking inside the car. I think in actually multifamily, we do.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I would
Is
say
that considered part of the 1.5?
from staff's perspective, and Eric can correct me on the history because he's been here a little longer than I have, but typically the way we look at it is if you have a garage, that's part of it. Just like a typical house, anything that is, 1 bedroom and less requires 1 parking space, 2 bedroom and over requires 2 parking spaces. So depending on the configuration of that one, it ends up and most of these ones end up, you either have a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, even consider 2 spaces. Those 3 bays and then parking a car in front of it would be typical on how, most condos are built, on how most things are approved, that yes, you'd have 1 parking space in there and then you'd be able to park a car outside of it too, because those would be under the same tenancy for the same owner. You have 2 people living together. They should be able to figure out how their 1 car can move and who gets there and not.
So technically, we could tear down the 4th garage.
Technically.
And have 6 spaces. What I was trying to clarify. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Steve,
Huh? Any other questions? Yes, Alan.
Commissioner Davis, are we discussing the sidewalk at this point?
Yep, staff would actually recommend that you do, because if the sidewalk brings up extra questions or extra information needed, again, I will just, it's in the packet, but in the staff report, I'll just remind the commission that a waiver application in the subdivision regulation specifically requires a 3/4 vote. So it requires 4 votes to grant a waiver of the subdivision regulations. Again, the requirements, the following conditions shall be met. Again, the commission shall not grant a waiver unless it finds the following conditions are met. The property for which the waiver is sought is uniquely affected by these regulations. Physical features of the property or its location cause exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship in meeting the requirements of these regulations. The granting of the waiver will not have a significant adverse effect upon adjacent property or the public health and safety. The granting of the waiver is not in conflict with the plan of development, and where it is proposed to vary any engineering standards contained in these regulations, a favorable report from the town engineer has been received.
If I may, I believe 3/4 vote is 5 votes.
Actually, it would be 5 votes, wouldn't it?
One second, it would be 5 votes, a 3/4 vote.
That's correct. Thank you for correcting.
I have a question on right now, the sidewalk where it ends, it just ends.
Correct.
There's no crosswalk, there's no extension. If it went across this property to the other end of this property, is that gonna be the same condition?
Yes.
Is there a crosswalk up there? Is there no way to get across the other street? It's just gonna end at a dead end.
Yeah, and it is recommended that, again, per the P O C D, that this type of road do have it on both sides of the road. However, again, this is not a priority area to the north, it's a priority area to the south. But it would be a natural continuation. That is something that the town engineer has been working on. I think it'd be Maple Hill, Robbins, as we're continuing moving street to street, we're trying to adopt more of a, complete network.
And closing gaps where they do exist.
Yeah, so while there was one gap, someone that's put in a subdivision at some point was made to put in that section, not connected further south, not connected further north. If it's something that, again, the commission wants to physically go out to the property, take a look and get the concept of it, I can bring it up on Google Maps. But it's something that, I think the commission can consider. Again, it's pretty much a unanimous vote to waive it.
Commissioner Woods? I don't want to get too far off subject, but we're talking about the sidewalk. Help me understand, what is the priority to the south? How far is the town, because I know Eric knows, you're still a little bit new. This town does not prioritize sidewalks. Fixing them, repairing them, replacing them, putting new ones in. It talks about it, but it doesn't do it. It hasn't done it in years and years and years and years. So right now, I'm very familiar, I grew up on the street. The sidewalks there, right, it dead ends. My guess is the people that live in those houses don't shovel it. I don't blame them for shoveling it because it leads to nowhere. But again, back to my question, if you're going to the south, where are you taking them? Because how do you get across the brook? Are you going that far? I'm just trying to understand the priority. Where is it getting you?
Yeah, well, it's getting you to, number one, to the farm. That would be the major connection, I believe it recommended. And I believe it's noted in the staff report. I didn't snip that, did I?
Well, can you put it overhead?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm bringing up the P O C D.
Yeah, it's taking a minute to load.
Because luckily, at least I do put in the page numbers for myself.
That's
Yeah, it's gonna be slow. I wish our computers cooperated better. Okay. My apologies for the time it's taken. Road classification.
See, it's not even.
It's not even. Medium priority.
I'm sorry, yes. Well, he's looking for, try to get the map up. My suggestion would be that if we do approve this, that we waive the sidewalk. But we ask the applicant to make sure that the grading is sufficient so that if the town decides to add a sidewalk in the future, they can go through that, which I don't think is gonna take much work, if it's that great of a learning. That's what I would suggest. Okay, very good. We did that similar to Penn Road. Right.
Yeah, so what it is, it's up here. As you can see, this is the subject lot. Right here.
Mhm.
Right.
You have, actually, sorry, right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Subject lot is right here. You have an existing piece of sidewalk here. You have a gap. It's actually showing double sidewalk down the rest of the south. So that would be a continuation. Again, there's a sidewalk gap missing on this side, continuing north. But you have one section here, a gap, and then sidewalk to the south.
Sidewalk doesn't pick up to the south until you get to Richard Street.
Yep,
And
so
from Richard
that's,
Street south, but there isn't anything from Richard Street north.
On
On the
that
south
side,
side.
yes, that's
There
true.
is on the north side, actually west side.
West side, yeah.
so two.
Now you're aging yourself too. I'm looking at all the names on that report from 85. Holy cow. There's not many of those people. No, one thing. Yeah.
Yep, so we'll go for, again, so this is
That was
the,
David Payne,
Oh,
not Commissioner Payne.
Yeah.
So none of
He
them.
was an employee.
so you have the subject property. And this is again where the sidewalk ends,
Yeah.
right at the property.
And those three houses were built together. So whatever
Mhm.
reason at that time, the town
Yep.
was,
Subdivision regulation, you had,
wasn't willing to.
a town engineer was saying, no, I want them, I will continue there. Again, it stops right here.
Or they didn't ask for
Waived
it.
them
Yep.
for,
Yeah,
Peckham
and then you have
Yeah.
the missing section. Then down to the Peckham Farm,
Deming Farm.
Deming Farm, sorry. Peckham, I just heard of that. And then it starts right here at the farm. So again, it is missing a portion in front. And then a small portion between, it's basically missing from right there, but it is at the farm going south.
how far does it go to the south?
I think it continues.
I think it,
Goes all the way down.
it does go to Richard, yeah.
Does it really?
Yeah, it does on that
It
side, yes.
goes all the way
Yeah, they could walk to Target.
There's at least two.
down to Richard. So this is why there is, again, it's sidewalk to the farm, a gap, this section, and then north. So that's why in talking with the town engineer, while it's not specifically listed, it is somewhat of a logical extension if we were to continue it up both sides. of
And it
this road.
closes that gap.
And that continues all the way to church, on that side, on the east side as well. All the way down.
Yeah, it is on, yeah.
Yeah, it continues all the way down. So again, it's a section missing in front of the farm. Whoa. And starts right here,
That pole, yeah.
this pole, and stops, and then we're missing across our property.
Yeah, so you're missing the farm.
The majority of
This
the farm.
section, whether you put it in or not,
And then-
this section north.
Right there. So again, this is a smaller section
Oh,
right here.
Oh, yeah, because that house was there before.
Yep. So it starts right there. It's actually within, down to that pole right there. So this is something that, if this section was put in, I think the town engineer, when looking at it, would want to put in that other section again, because it connects all the way down south. So it's something to consider.
Mr. Woods, we all set? Yep.
Any other questions? Any other questions from commissioners, no? Okay, what's the,
I'll make a motion that we close petition 5-24. And move it to full business for possible action tonight.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. You?
Yep. And then we'd also need a petition, since they were heard concurrently, petition for 6-.
For the sidewalk, right?
So that was
Yeah,
Woods and
we're gonna
Fox.
close. Petition 6-24.
Right,
And move it to old business for possible action.
right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay. That ends the petitions, approval of, minutes. Move to approve. Sorry? Is there motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Sure. Move the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. New business, any new business?
None.
None? Okay. Old business, Gina? We have,
So what's the one,
first one.
so the sign, the interior, mark, this is the one that comes.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
I have it, it's under this pile.
It's the first one.
Yeah, petition motion, okay, so petition 1-24, special permit 6.2.5 for a freestanding business sign at 240 Payne Road in the PD zone, Plan Development Zone. Applicant Sign Pro Incorporated, owner Shuko USA LLP, contact Christine Baracci Di Ferro. Motion to approve with conditions. Move to approve petition 01-24 with the following conditions. The applicant shall revise the plan to locate the sign outside of the 20-foot drainage right of way.
Good. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is petition 5 dash, no, we're not.
Yep.
Let's see.
Yep.
Yeah, 5-24 and 6-24, I believe. We're gonna do them both
Should
together.
vote them on separately.
Correct. Yep.
Because they're separate applications.
Yes, all right. 5-24, Gia.
Petition 5-24, special permit for an interior lot, section 3.4.9 at 204 to 208 Church Street in the R20 zone, residential zone. Applicant and owner PAC Property Management LLC, contact Donald Pack Jr. Motion to, we're gonna approve with conditions, or we're moving? Motion to approve with conditions. The plan, number one, the plan shall be modified to include a notation regarding the preservation of the evergreen buffer to be preserved on easterly side of Lot 1B. The note shall include the deed volume and page references. As part of the applicant, okay, I'll have to read that.
Here's a second.
But I think there's more than that.
Okay.
Oh,
No, that's just for
Sorry.
the special
Yeah.
permit.
Second.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's on.
So what I would recommend is, you can vote on the special permit separately because the sidewalk conditions are not part of the special permit, they're part of the subdivision regulations. So that's why staff doesn't have it separated out a little bit. And then when we get to the other one, again, I would recommend that, again, in between when that's called, that a specific motion be made regarding the sidewalk waiver.
So we can go ahead and vote on.
We're all set with
Yeah,
this?
so we have a motion by Commissioner Pascarelli. Do we have a second?
I second this.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Thank you. Next is petition 6-24. That has conditions on it.
Right.
Yep, so before those conditions are read, and it's not specifically in here, this is when it would be good to talk about the motion for the sidewalk,
Right.
or to make it as part of that one. And the one other thing noted that we didn't talk about, but it is in the staff report, and it was noted that staff did request the inclusion of additional street tree. Again, the regulations specifically say if trees aren't preserved, 2 trees shall be put in. Again, it's a minor condition, but that's something that the commission can discuss.
Okay. So I'll read the motion to approve with conditions.
With conditions.
Yes, petition 6-24, re-subdivision at 204.
We need to talk about the sidewalk.
Yes.
Oh, we have to talk about that. We haven't, okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
Is there any discussion on the sidewalks? Commissioner Minor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I have some concerns about removing or waiving the sidewalk requirement, just in lieu of what is currently in place to the south. And I have a 6-year-old niece that is expected to walk to school to Patterson from Richard Street. That requires her to cross over, come up the west side and come back on the other side. I think this is just infilling one larger section. It is gapping. It is connecting to an existing sidewalk that continues for quite a distance down and hopefully through further action, continue to close the gaps on that thoroughfare. So it would be against waiving it.
Mr. Woods? I'm actually in favor of waiving it. I'm gonna give you a good example, the street that I live on, New Britain Avenue between Main and Wood Avenue. Actually, the busiest park in town in Newington is on that street. There is no public sidewalk. I've been working for 20 years to try to get the council to fund some money, including when I was mayor, and was not successful to get a sidewalk. But the town doesn't prioritize sidewalks, so we're going to make somebody put in a sidewalk that goes nowhere. And as far as I'm concerned, it's going to endanger somebody even a little bit more. Now it kind of stops right at a pole, so it's going to lead you, I think, to not even go down that far. You're going to cross before it. Now you're going to cross at an intersection, Windmill Lane and Church Street, which I think is more dangerous. And again, we've got an elementary school. It's another 500-600 feet down the road. So I think if we allow the grading to be put in place, if the town in fact wants to add sidewalks at a future date, I'd be very surprised if that happens, but that's what I would do.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bascarelli?
I mean, I feel like if the town engineer is recommending the sidewalk, we should do it. And I think if the P O C D has this sort of plan, even though you sort of like, and then it's one very small step at a time, but how else do you get there unless you build them? And I feel like if the P O C D is something and sidewalks is something we start to think about, then maybe we can eventually change the mentality that that Commissioner Woods spoke about, that the town doesn't care, but if we care, then, and we start putting them in, then, we'll get there. So I would like to see the sidewalk there, and per the recommendation of the engineer.
Mr. Nafis?
Yeah, I agree with the Commissioner Woods. Continuing the sidewalk to nowhere doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If there was a way to cross the road up there, way to get someone out of that dead end. And the fact of the matter is, if you're looking north at everything that's going on there, likely not to find too many more subdivisions coming in, which means the town's going to fund all the rest of those sidewalks. And to put that onus on this, I don't know how expensive sidewalk can be. I don't think it's necessary at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
I was sitting here thinking, I was listening to Commissioner Minor, Woods, and Pasquarelli. Now, right now, I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner Woods and Commissioner Nafis.
Okay. Hoffman, do you have anything to say?
I don't think it's required. I don't think it's gonna help. It just puts another onus on the landowner.
Commissioner Droz?
My thoughts are that if it was the last property, if it was the last link, if it was the type of thing where we only had a couple to go, but once you start incorporating the farm property into it, which goes back to, is the town going to do want to extend all of them, through that?
Yeah.
And also listening to Commissioner Minor and appreciating that, having had 3 kids who grew up on a street without sidewalks. There is a sidewalk continuously up the other side of the road with then a crossing guard, very nice guy actually, who walks them over to the school. I would be inclined to not require the sidewalk for those reasons.
Okay. Commissioner Hoffman? Okay. My fault. Right. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Just for the record, and I might have said this, Gina, I want to get it on the record. I don't think that the town doesn't care. I think the town just hasn't had funds to be able to prioritize. To move forward. I think they would like to do it, but the money's got to come from somewhere. And again, I was mayor for 4 years. I think we carried $25,000 in our budget for sidewalk repair. How many miles of sidewalks do we have in the town, gentlemen?
I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I think it's around 60 miles.
Yeah, so this was actually,
And roughly, you could figure probably $125 to $150 a linear foot.
yep. Yeah, so,
My comment is, I don't believe it's necessary at this point in time, but I would like it put into the record that if at some point the town does put them in, there should not be any objection. Okay.
So as staff, I would just like to add, actually at council last night, they did discuss kind of the sidewalk fund and the engineer, our town engineer does have a more aggressive approach for actually repairs compared to, I'm not saying compared to past, I can't speak to the past engineers, but he's looking for an aggressive approach going forward in repairing, maintaining, and then looking for grants to expand sidewalks. And I'll just correct myself too, again, since it's a 7-member voting, it would be 6 out of 7 would be required affirmative to waive the requirements, otherwise the requirements stand.
It is super majority.
Yes,
Yeah.
3/4, yeah, 3/4
5 is
majority.
the majority.
Yeah, but you need a 3/4
basically
majority
need
per the
unanimous vote.
subdivision.
All right, we'll take a roll call vote. I'll vote last. Noreen, could you call a roll call, please?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't have a motion on the
Yeah.
table.
There's no motion yet.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay. All right, is there a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion, for petition 6-24, that we waive, the requirement for sidewalks, on the street frontage.
Is there a second?
A second.
Second.
Made, moved and second. All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please. Noreen?
Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Fox,
Not all this time. Sorry, yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
No.
Commissioner Nafis,
Yes.
Commissioner Pascarelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Droz,
Yes.
Chairman Sobieski.
Yes. Okay, now we can move this.
Passes 6-1.
What about the tree?
Well said on that?
You're good for the sidewalks. Now you can make your motion.
Okay, now we'll take the motion to, for 6-24.
So read this now from here. Petition 6-24 re-subdivision at 204-208 Church Street in the R20 zone residential zone, applicant and owner PAC Property Management LLC. Contact Donald Pack Jr. So we're going to remove this language about the sidewalk. Right?
Sidewalks language should be removed, right? Paul?
Correct, yep.
Yep, take that
Waiver
out.
pass
Okay.
6-1.
Motion to approve with conditions. The plan shall be modified in the following manner. The inclusion of an additional street tree on lot 1A. 2, the new deeds are prepared for lots 1A and 1B. Proper language should be added to address the following: existing sanitary and access easement, volume 2193, page 543. Agreement language about evergreen screening, volume 622, page 49, and the proposed right to drain as shown on this plan. 3, prior to the issuance of any building permits pursuant to ordinance 176-2, the town engineer shall assign the address to the new lot. And I don't have to read the next line either, no.
Second. Move for second. All in favor?
Who seconded? I'm sorry, did I?
Nafis.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
Nafis.
And yep, and as I'll remind everyone politely, as Noreen's listening along too, if we could just announce for votes would be much appreciated.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Next is item D. Partial site plan acceptance and bond request for approval petition 23-21 at 333 Berlin Turnpike. Mr. Planner.
Okay, so, what I can do is the applicant is here and what I'm gonna do is, I got my own. Bad computer tonight. So I went out to the site today, and I met with both the gentlemen seated in front of you to, review the site. And it is in pretty good condition. What I'm gonna do is kind of show you some photos. Don't do that. Okay. So I think you've all I've kind of bombarded you with photos for the last several meetings on the site. But again, so this is just a reminder, the residential portion was approved at the last meeting for a partial site acceptance, subject to OSTA requirements for the right in, or the right out only and full access Payne Road. Subsequently, we've received information from the owner's and applicant's engineer regarding OSTA approval pretty much being imminent, that they have reviewed that they've provided their comments, and that a letter should be expected next week from OSTA for a updated TIR for the temporary right in, right out for Shake Shack only and for the residential. So that's how OSTA has reviewed this. Again, it won't be a right in, right out for the full access for the commercial side of it. OSTA has reviewed it, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong. OSTA has reviewed it for Shake Shack's traffic and for the residential traffic. Again, because it is a different condition than what was originally approved. So just to go through the site, again, this is the residential portion. Street sweepers were out on the site this morning to kind of go through. You can see the garages have all been complete. Let's see if it'll let me advance. The front of the site, landscaping is going in. Work continues. Again, this was the area of the potential proposed gate, but that has been removed. There is no request for it because OSTA is imminent, and that's the access control between the two sites. The parking lot, again, with the one that was originally shown on the first picture, and this will be utilized by the tenants. Work is progressing in the area next to building 2, with curb being poured, sidewalk close to the building, and paving should follow within towards, I believe, the end of the month. As you look at the corner, you can see that the stop sign does need to be lowered just a little bit, but it was installed. Striping will be done again as it gets closer to opening, and staff will review it down Payne Road. The fire access between two properties. I believe the fire marshal was out there and was okay with the condition. They will just be working on the gated condition here. It's kind of a temporary as they go, move the fence. Nothing purely permanent that would stop the fire department from going in there. I believe there will be a lock put on it that the fire marshal will have the key for. This in front of you is not a plate. This is actually the poured dumpster pad and the concrete coming out from it. There will be shimming done between on either side of the concrete. You can see this is the area where the fence will be pulled a little bit back. I've talked with the owner, and when it gets ready for the opening condition, there'll be the 25-foot site triangle. That's typically the typical one, 25 feet back on each corner, and the fence will not be in the way that as people approach this corner, they'll be able to see over the Jersey barriers and see any traffic on the other side. This is building 2 in front of it, as you see the one for the CO. Site's actually starting to get cleaned up. A lot of the material has been moved off of this site onto building 3. Some is still behind building 2, but this area is getting ready for pavement. So in the access drive that we've seen, the applicant has been installing all of their scrim on the fences. Again, to kind of make it a little more friendly for those who are coming in, make it less, visibility for construction going on behind the fence. Again, just as we go through, so this is behind building 2. Again, progress, there are still some structures and everything, but compared to even how it was at the last meeting, there's been a lot of progress made around the buildings. As you can see, there's, sub-base down, and it's working towards progression, towards completion. Again, just highlighting the signage that's been installed over the fence into the behind building 2. This is building 3. The owner has pretty much put all of the heavy construction equipment, and all the earth moving is still taking place on building 3, but this is segregated from the rest of the property. Again, this is more of an update. They were granted partial approval at the last meeting. As you can see, curb is being poured. The pool deck will probably not be installed for a couple weeks. In meeting with the applicant, we did a note to address any trip hazards, bring the fence around it, just to make sure any areas that are under construction are still excluded for pedestrians. And the town engineer and I will inspect this site prior to any COs being issued, including a nighttime inspection of all the lighting to make sure it's functioning. All right, so now we move on to the commercial. Mr. Anderson is here today to represent the commercial aspect of this property. As you see behind Shake Shack, there has been binder put down. It goes beyond the dumpsters. Again, Shake Shack's pretty much ready to open. They have their outdoor dining in. As you see, landscaping has started going in. This is mulched. Pretty much, other than a small section over by building A, the entirety of the parking lot has final course of pavement on it. This area will be shimmed prior to opening. And so this is behind building C. So per their plan, building C will actually be fenced off until the areas are completed. See, that's building D over in the corner at the front of the site. Trash enclosures in. And this is just the unfinished area behind building C right now, but this area will be fenced off. Lots of pictures. Again, you can see it's as part of the application just for partial approval. This area will be striped down the center line per the plan. I do have a plan that I'll bring up. We received one today. I think that pretty much, yep, that concludes the pictures. So let's go to the Zoom meeting. You can bring it up. You got the Zoom meeting up? For the, not the meeting, but the actual folder. Yes, in that folder. Just double, oh yeah, you're gonna wanna go to the. So if you go up to the top. So go site plan for that one first.
You Matt to speak, he has his hand raised.
Yep, and I believe, so what I'll do is I'll put this up. Actually, I have the wrong thing shared right now. My own folders, that is bad. Oh, that's your folder. You're sharing your folder.
Right.
Do that. Okay. So again, I have this updated plan that I'll let the applicant speak to, but I will say that staff is satisfied with the condition of the site regarding giving partial approval. Again, there is a plan regarding fencing that I'll let them go through and how they're going to control access to the site. There is the proposed bond amount, which is in the prepared motion for tonight. And again, it's pretty much all subject on OSTA approval at the end of the day.
Thank you, Paul. Jamie Anderson. I'm with Grossman Development Group. We're out of Framingham, Massachusetts, 405 Cochituate Road. As you can see in the plan that has actually been shown to you guys at a previous hearing, not much has changed with the exception of some dates that you can see on there. And as Paul had alluded to, some fencing as shown in red. What you're looking here on the left-hand side of the site is the Shake Shack on top of Building B that he's pointing to right there. We are planning to have 48 parking spaces kind of partitioned off for them, which can be expanded as necessary, but that's where we're going to start with 48 spaces. We think that should be ample. We're just trying to really control cars from going kind of all over the parking lot, obviously. At the entrance to the property, we are, as Paul alluded to, we have received comments from OSTA last minute saying they do want Jersey barriers. So we have a plan to get those in place before Shake Shack does open. It will control the traffic as has been discussed previously at the board here with respect to the right in, right out with an arc that can really direct the traffic heading southbound on the turnpike. So that will be in place. So we just got the plan basically approved today. So we're going to try to get that in place ASAP. Again, oh, there it is there. Yep. So basically the Jersey barriers will be on the exterior of that pink area all the way down to the bottom and yeah, all the way around. So that this is an approved OSTA requirement. I know, I believe Matt Bruton is on the phone. If he, it might make sense for him to give us an OSTA update.
I believe he does have his,
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. For the record, my name's Matthew Bruton, engineer, professional engineer from BL Companies. Our headquarters is at 355 Research Parkway in Meriden, Connecticut. So, yeah, I'll give you the kind of progression of OSTA to reflect kind of what the plan that's showing on the screen is now. Our initial request to OSTA several months ago was for multiple tenants, multiple restaurants with the residents for the rear of the property. As the kind of progress has progressed in terms of construction schedule and timing, obviously the desire for a direct access to the Berlin Turnpike was apparent. So we modified that request to now include this right in, right out for the Berlin Turnpike, and then again the full access on Payne Road, which is the town road. As Paul and Jamie have both mentioned, OSTA has signed off on that. They did provide a written correspondence via email earlier today that was shared with town planner, saying that there's no unsafe condition in this partial opening condition, and that is related to Shake Shack for the commercial side and up to 98 residents for the rear. The goal obviously is to open and operate this month with those tenants, and then the goal would be to open up the remaining tenants as the proposed traffic signal and median break is done, which is hopefully expected to start this month and to be completed in June. So this is the temporary condition you see on the plan here. OSTA's obviously signed off on it and looking for the contractors to implement this now that we have their blessing, so the tenants can move in as appropriate. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions, commissioners? I have one. I know that you said that you're going to stripe this and stuff. Are you going to daily sweep this so there's no dust? Well, I didn't hear that. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, absolutely. The site will need to be daily swept.
Yeah, because I know in the construction sites, you have a lot of dirt and dust and covers up, especially the white striping lines.
Right.
So I'd like to make sure that every safety precaution is taken in this development. Not trying to give you a hard time, but I want to make sure that it's clearly delineated where the lanes are.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, I guess we have a motion for modification. Yeah, we have a motion for modification.
So this is
We need a motion to.
Yeah.
Should be on the last page.
All right, yeah, last page.
Yeah, so the item, yeah, it's on the last page of that. Yeah, it's item, as I noted, D1. D2 has been removed, withdrawn. So D1 for the,
On the agenda.
yep, so it's a, the partial site plan acceptance and bond approval for petition 2321 at
Right.
3333
Yeah,
Berlin
yeah, yeah.
Turnpike. And then the sub one underneath it.
Yeah,
Sub-
there's 5 points underneath it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Motion to approve the partial site plan acceptance at 3313 to 3333 Berlin Turnpike, subject to the following conditions. 1, the partial approval is subject to the site turnover plan submitted on 4/10/24, prepared by BL Companies, subject to modifications to be approved by town staff. 2, a bond shall be posted in the amount of $779,254 as estimated by the developer and approved by the town engineer, subject to the requirements of the Newington zoning regulations, section 7.3. 3, the approval is subject to inspection and approval of site conditions by the town planner and town engineer prior to the issuance of a CO. 4, traffic controls shall be installed per plan, permanent or temporary, including temporary striping of the binder course, subject to final approval of the town engineer. 5, subject to town receipt of the OSTA approval for full access on Payne Road and right-in, right-out temporary access plan for the Berlin Turnpike entrance.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, move to
Fox, second.
Fox, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Good luck, Alan.
All right, next is petitions for public hearing scheduling.
Yep, so it was not on the agenda, but I do want to bring it to your attention. So this is actually for 3313 to 3333. So we have put it on for a public hearing on the next meeting and advertised it. So this is actually, so as part of it, when they came in and got the restaurant use and they came in and got the approval grocery store, everything like that, sale of alcoholic beverage was not included on any of the approvals, and it is specifically a special permit use in the Newington zoning regulations. So they're going to be coming in at the next meeting for that special permit hearing. Again, it's specifically for the 4 restaurants that they show and a grocery beer for the grocery store. But in anticipation of those opening, because Shake Shack doesn't tend to offer beer and stuff, it's, pretty family friendly enough establishment, but it does have that offered. That'll be on the next meeting. And we did receive an application for 39 East Cedar Street. Is that correct? Or 69?
39 for
the
yes, for
for a coffee shop restaurant. It's not on here. We just received it. That will likely be on the first
Second.
one. Yeah, the first one in May.
first one May.
So you'll see that on the next agenda. Again, we just received that this week.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's your report also, or did you have some more?
Oh, no. So I have we all know the current land use applications are up. So that's just there. We keep it on. People be aware. They can see what's posted, and the ones I discussed, we posted onto that soon. So the next item, I added some more. So one of the questions, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to devote an incredible amount of staff time to it, but I will keep working at it regarding researching the different cannabis aspects. But one question that was asked very specifically is how many retail sales locations are currently in the area and throughout the towns? What I've done when researching the cannabis approvals, it really is all over the place, the different pieces of information out there.
Yeah.
When you go to certain state sites, it tells you there's this many permits. When you go look it up in the business license search, you can find more. Again, a lot of provisional and a lot are current. I actually had a handout and I have an extra copy of it for anyone who's interested I consolidated all of the active permits, both provisional and current. So the current ones are currently operating. Provisional ones, you'll notice that some of those provisional ones are in Chicago or in some other ones because that's how they just do it until they locate a position. Per the states, the way that they issue licenses, until they'll give you a provisional, but until you go for your final, you do not have to identify the location. It's issued to the person and not the specific location, and then they review it afterwards when you're going in for your final. So what I did through multiple different areas, looking at the adult use map, license search, web, and just web searching, the question was asked, how many? So typically what I found is most communities have about, at the top level, about 3. So that's when, you know, I have us noted as 3, Manchester, Meriden, but there's a lot of asterisks in there. So right now we have 2 operating, one that was recently approved, but they haven't finished their state process yet. I do anticipate them to open. They do have that provisional permit, and they have actually listed Newington on that as the provisional permit. So they are making that official.
And they did file a trade name as well.
Yep, and they filed a trade name. So again, Newington 3, Manchester, which actually, if you look at Manchester, higher population, but slightly lower density. Kind of the fairness to look at different towns is every town's population is going to be very different depending on their size. But looking at the density of it gives you an understanding of how you can kind of relate to the size of that community and how it's kind of developed out land-wise overall. So we're similar to Manchester. Again, Manchester, 2 operational and 1 approved with a drive-through. Originally, I thought that was East Hartford, but the research came up on that. That was Manchester, unless I'm wrong, but that was the articles. Again, some of this is just web searching because you can't find it all out there. It's not listed with the state yet. Meriden 3, I know that 2 are in operation, and I know when I was there, a 3rd one got approval. That's kind of lingering, whether it expires or not, but that gives you, you know, they had 3 as well. They're slightly higher density. Hartford 3, West Hartford 2, East Hartford 2, with the notice that they actually aren't built out yet and don't have the permits for it, but there are 2 approvals. That's all been published out there. And Waterbury 2, with Waterbury has a pending application right now to potentially do it to 3. So this is kind of on the up, you know, on the upper end, there are multiples that are moving towards having 3 in their communities. Smaller communities, Vernon, Tallinn, Willington, Willimantic, Colchester have 1. But it is typically a smaller community with, they typically have more limited commercial centers and larger areas of residences and more rural areas or a different type of setup. So that's just to give you an idea, again, while you're reviewing these and those past cannabis maps that were handed out and talking about the regulations. So moving on to the next page, what this all, there is a specific page, where can I buy cannabis in Connecticut, that's hosted by the state. I have a map on this after that that actually shows kind of the dots around Newington. But according to that, there are 36 retailers listed on that webpage, 2 medical, 13 adult use cannabis, cannabis only, and 21 hybrid. So the other item that you had in front of you, that large list, that's the state's business license lookup. For that, there are 75 active licenses. There are potential duplicates of there. There aren't duplicates of the license numbers, but they might have done something in the process. But for the most part, it's, you know, whether between 70 or 75, there are a lot of provisional. Again, 36 current, which is actually coincides with the number that was above, but there are 29 provisional licenses out there that haven't been specifically dedicated to a location yet. So those are the people who are either already have approvals that we don't see on here that were just granted last week, last month on multiple different towns out there, but that's how they have provisional permits, and then they can assign it to a location. And just for people's information on that map, so you can actually see, you know, if you ever go look at that map, you'll see that it's kind of throughout the state. It is really mostly now the highest density of areas is around the Hartford metro area, which isn't necessarily surprising. You have it's showing 2 locations in Newington, but there will be a 3rd that's not shown on this map. You have a cluster, actually 2 in West Hartford and 3 in Hartford. 2 of the West Hartford ones and the Hartford ones are actually really close proximity. So in all essence, you have 3 in very close proximity on New Park Road around that area. And then you can see kind of spread out, 2 in Meriden, 1 in Middletown, 1 down in Colchester, and then, you know, kind of spread out. But you can see they are, of course, along the major traveled areas, along the high density areas in Hartford and along Berlin Turnpike and other commercial. So this is just some more information for the commission. Again, if you have questions that you want me to research any additional information as we look forward to this, or if you'd like me to just start working on regulations, I can do that too.
What's the commission's pleasure? Mr. Droz.
Quick question, Commissioner Droz. With the provisional licenses that are out right now, basically it's just people who are applying for a license and could literally call you tomorrow to say, hey, this is available. Can I look at this property?
Mhm.
So provisional, we're talking state and they just haven't picked a town to try yet.
Correct. Yeah, it's just that the way that the Social Equity Council works, they look at the applicant first. Okay, they met the requirements, they have the right backing, that yes, you yourself have, your organization can have a cannabis license. And then from there, they look for areas to potentially go, look for areas, towns that have regulations that permit it, have to go through whatever process and then just apply it to it.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Nathis.
You gotta keep in mind when you're comparing us against other towns, you know, how many of those towns have a Berlin Turnpike? Which is essentially, is it 4 mile, what they used to call a 4 mile mall? 33,000 cars a day or more passing by. That's why it's attractive. It always has been attractive for retail. So what we want to do about that, I don't know, but to say that we have as many as another town is not. We just have that section of town here that's made for this type of a thing. People driving home from work want to stop and pick something up. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you. Commissioner Minor?
No, no.
I'd like to see distances, as I said earlier. I don't like to see them clustered in one area. That's my concern. So I'd like to have you put together a temporary moratorium, possibly for, I don't know, 3 months, 2 months, whatever it takes to get the regulations written so we have a good sized distance between the buildings. All right, just my opinion, because I mean, if we're gonna cluster one area of town with them, I don't think that's fair to the residents. No, again, just my opinion. Anybody else have any other questions or opinions?
I think one of the things that came up,
Yeah.
Commissioner Pascarelli, that came up in the last meeting was also to clean up the lack of uniformity in some of the language, so that if we're saying something needs to be this far from something else. So I don't know if that is something that is a good idea to do irrespective of cannabis. And then that could be the thing that is the break, tapping the brake until we get that language squared, and then, you know, and then establish whatever the commission's concept is about the distances between the different dispensaries. And I think I know the answer to this, but we don't have, it's not zoned for town center, right? Dispensaries are not?
It's not zoned for town center, but if you look at that map, you can see where PD zones are mapped.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's zoned for the
Right.
PD zone.
Right, PD zone, exactly. Okay, I remember now.
Yeah, so not specifically the business town center zone, correct?
Right.
Yes, Commissioner Nathis.
I can remember what I was gonna say now.
That's right, I get that.
Getting late.
Yeah, I know, it's been a long day.
My fault.
Why don't you come back to me?
All right. Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Woods.
Yeah, I mean, Commissioner Chairman Sobieski, I guess I get a little nervous when we start talking about regulating a business that is legal in town. You take major retailers like the box stores, they play off each other. So they definitely locate next to each other on purpose. Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, Sam's, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS. Usually one's on this side of the street, one's on the other side of the street. So I don't know what we're trying to accomplish. If it was not a legal substance, maybe different. But I guess I'm struggling with what the distance is for. Because it's not in a residential zone. We don't allow it in a residential zone. So it's only in a business zone. That's just my opinion.
Commissioner Woods, just to make myself clear, I'm with we don't have any distances from residential zones. All right? We have 100 foot from door to door. What I'm looking for is to get, so they're not all clustered in the back like we have right now in one area.
Again, I hear you, and we went through this a few years ago, unfortunately, before Paul was here, but Eric was here. And we drove ourselves out of our minds trying to pick a footage, because if we weren't specific, and that's how we came from front door to front door, that's what we ended up with. We didn't have that. So you guys would say it's the property line. We assumed it's not the property line, it's the building. And we had no consistency. We, at least now we have consistency. We have a place where we measure from, the front door. I'm okay with that. And if you want to increase that, but again, I think what we have to be very careful, we have to, and this is all you, we can't regulate ourselves to the point where what we're doing is saying, you can't come here, right? So I'll make this up. You put 750 linear feet at a residential front door. Chances are we've just wiped out anybody who wants to have any sort of medical marijuana or recreational marijuana from coming into this town. And it was a problem with the first medical marijuana that came in, fine fettle, because there's a little spur that comes out to Prospect Street. What's across the street? Residential. So that,
I remember that, yeah. I just would like to make sure that, you know, just to see what we can come up with, that's all.
Mr. Chairman, I just remembered what I wanted.
Yes,
Commissioner Nafis.
Commissioner Nafis.
First of all, I agree with what Steve said about how we want to limit our businesses coming into town. We still want to be business friendly. My question for you was, if you write up like a temporary moratorium, are you required to put a specific time frame on that and required to put specifically what is going to be discussed on that? Because this is going to be a moratorium, I suspect, strictly against marijuana retailers. That's all going to have to be spelled out in there and what we're going to be looking at, that type of thing.
Yep. So if that is the will of the commission, again, I myself will not put forward it without the commission behind it, because it is the commission's decision. It is the key thing, temporary and limited. And those are the survivability of a moratorium. Those are the two very specific legal requirements, that it be temporary, that a very limited time and the time scope needed to accomplish what you're doing, and limited. Again, it can't just be, nothing that's built in town. It has to be specific, limited to what you're doing and what is the intended outcome. And then you have to do what you're looking to do with the outcome. So if the outcome, that's been done in Newington in the past, there was a temporary moratorium against high density residential. And during that time, the TOD regulations were created. So that was the purpose. So yes, to create a moratorium and actually to go through the process, while in statute, there's nothing specifically that says you have to do X, Y, and Z. The way I do moratoriums, the way it's typically done across it, and I think is the correct way to do it, you treat it like a zoning amendment. You bring it forward like a zoning amendment. Proper notice, proper hearings, public hearing, and the timeframes to put it in the paper. So everyone has due notice. If we were to go down that road, yes, people can apply in the interim. If they say a moratorium's coming, they go, okay, and that can happen too. So you can either do the moratorium route, or you can do the discussion about the regulations and work on the regulations while you're going. Either might elicit the same response from someone looking to go into a location.
And your moratorium could be just on dispensaries and sales, and you could still leave production alone for now, because we don't have any production facilities. And
yeah, and production was the one that we highlighted earlier that I was actually a little more concerned about. But you can, if you take a look at that map, that was at the last meeting, you can see where production could be. Most of the time, even the 100 foot from the residential actually did exclude a lot more than I thought it would be. And that's the point of mapping it out and having graphics.
we started out at 500. 500 or 1,000 feet, and basically we started drawing lines. Nowhere, it doesn't go anywhere. We went down to 100.
Yep. So again, I may be reinventing the wheel, and if I am, I apologize for that. But again, just looking into this, and again, this is the commission's prerogative. If you want me to keep researching, I will absolutely research. We can have the discussions, and I'll keep it on the agenda. If the commission does not want me to do so, I will focus attention elsewhere. So again, that's the commission's prerogative.
Let's find out what the commission wants to, Commissioner Minor?
I would just, I think we're to some degree trying to reinvent the wheel, but in the same token, I don't want to end up with having the Berlin Turnpike full of retailers. It's just, I don't think it's appropriate, but I think I'm gonna leave it to the rest of the commission.
Commissioner Woods?
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary that we need to do is, a moratorium and set up these distances. I'm not opposed to listening to it. I don't know how much work it is for you. I'm leaning more towards, I'm not in favor of it, but I'm open-minded, you know. Bring me something that makes sense, I'll listen to it, but, you know, business regulates itself, right? Restaurants go out of business if they don't serve good food. You know, it's gonna happen. And the CVS right down the street, and they never close. No, in Berlin, closed.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's our job. If it's zoned for, you know, marijuana use, they could go in there. If they want to go in next door to each other, I believe they can go in there. I don't personally think that's gonna happen, but.
Commissioner Pascarelli?
I mean, I think apart from, I sort of agree with not having to reinvent the wheel with the distances. If the distances have been researched over the years and to bring us to this point, if we're just looking at them just to look at that. I think there's probably another level to this conversation that has to do with how the people in this town feel about having a proliferation of cannabis retailers here. And I don't know that this is necessarily something that we can take up or we need to take up or we should or shouldn't do it. So I'm open to what people need to sort of feel comfortable with. If it's a resident doesn't feel comfortable, like if they say, I don't want, 7 stores on the turnpike, I don't want one downtown, whatever. I mean, I think we have like more gun stores than we have cannabis stores right now. And I don't hear a lot of people complaining about that. I'm sort of agnostic about the whole thing, but I definitely feel like that the town, that there's probably something that's, there's some sensibility in the town that is present. And I think that's why we're talking about it.
Commissioner Nafis?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of a moratorium. I don't think it's a necessary route to go down. I think as he was basically saying, is the market kind of regulates itself. Yeah, we have the disadvantage of having this path through our town that carries more traffic than most roads throughout the state. And it's a nice place for people to just get off the road and get back on the road. There's no access limitations. There's nothing to stop it. So far, I believe our 3 cannabis stores have filled up empty buildings, right? They've never built a new building. So that's probably what they're looking for more than anything else. I don't see a big proliferation of it. I mean, it could happen. I'm not sure if going to distances is going to regulate that much. I mean, right now, the closest one is 2,700 feet from the other one.
Yeah.
The new one that was just approved.
Yeah, I think it was 2000 something.
Sounds about right.
Yep, and that's on that map that you all have
exactly.
too. That actually does show the current distances.
So, discussing it, that's fine, but I just don't see a need for a moratorium.
Okay. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Neither do I think that should go for moratorium. And I've always thought, people have always told me, business people, that if you want to open up a grocery store, do your research and find a grocery store that is very, very busy. Open up next to it. Because all those people are going to come next door if they can't get their Wheaties or whatever. Okay. That's my thing about distance. And I think, I think Commissioner Nafis just said something that kind of hit me about the proliferation of all sorts of, cannabis, medical or retail, all along the turnpike. I don't think you'll get that either. I think they'll spread out. I think, the people can say, only so many people will be interested. It's not the grocery store similarly, but still, I think we should concentrate on, not reinventing the wheel. Hopefully not, changing distances too much or getting too many distances in, because I agree with Commissioner Woods. And That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Commissioner Hoffman, you have anything to say?
I'm kind of juggling this whole thing. I'm not really sure which way I want to head.
All right.
I think it would be a good idea if you kind of did some research on it to see if a moratorium would be worthwhile. It may not be, but it's a business. If it's a legal business, they should be able to go where they want. But again, have 30 locations on the Berlin Turnpike. That's nuts. So we must have been able to do something with liquor stores. I don't know if there's a certain number or pizza shops.
population.
That's
population.
population.
Or pizza shops. We got a proliferation of all those. Do we need any more? I don't know. I'm not sure how I want to go just yet.
Okay. Commissioner Droz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I believe I agree with Commissioner Woods in regards to businesses tend to self-regulate. There's been a influx of car washes recently. Give it 5 years, the strong will survive. I also, a bit to Commissioner Pascarelli's point, I've got friends who use cannabis. I've got friends who rather vehemently don't. And what I'm curious is how much of this discussion is a knee-jerk reaction to the side of the coin that might be talking louder. Because you're probably going to find a lot less people who just don't, yes, I use cannabis and I love this. You're going to have a lot less of that than the people who are really going to want to say that's too many on the Berlin Turnpike. So I just want to make sure we're looking at an overall guidance of the town and not just knee-jerk listening to the people who are talking louder. You know what I mean? But no, being rather pro-business, I tend to agree with Commissioner Woods as to they tend to self-regulate based on survival of the fittest.
Yeah, my recollection of the discussion of the regulations is that there's a fair inconsistency between the alcohol and the drug in the way the regulation is written. And some of that had to do with distance, but some of it had to do with other factors, if my memory serves correctly. So it just seems to me that there might be a consideration of reviewing the regulation to have some consistency between alcohol sale and or alcohol and drug businesses in Newington. Whether we really need a moratorium for that is, a question, but it would certainly be a vehicle to clarify those regulation differences.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Planner, it appears that we don't want to do a moratorium, so just we'll let it go the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that comment about the differences between the two, the main thing is in our alcohol regulations, sale of alcoholic beverages, it does have protected uses or certain uses. You'll find that in the materials from the last meeting as well that were on the slides. Kind of had the two of those who were juxtaposed to each other, where yes, for alcohol, we look at churches, things like that, and it's not in the cannabis regulations. So that's something that I could probably even update that map to show what would be the impact. How would it change it if we brought that over? So that's something I can take a look at.
Okay, thank you. Communications?
We just have the CROG letters, if there's any question on those.
Okay, second bite at the Apple public participation for items that were not listed on the agenda. Councilman Ford, name and address, please.
Good evening, everybody. Matthew Plord, 258 Audubon Avenue. I'll start with on cannabis. I think the discussion tonight is useful to the extent that it indicated that there was a lack perhaps of specificity as to what a moratorium could accomplish. And that being a necessity for pursuing that moratorium, I think the commission ultimately respectfully made the proper choice in indicating their preference. Because if those regulations can be reviewed, and I think they ought to be personally, but without a moratorium, perhaps that's a less invasive way to accomplish the same thing. So I think that's wonderful. With regards to the sidewalks and the parcel on Church Street, I just want to say with all respect to the commission that I'm very disappointed with the decision that was made. I think we've had conversations as a council with the town engineer over the process of this year's budget cycle. And he has indicated, as the town planner suggested, that he intends to pursue a very aggressive sidewalk repair program over the next several years through CIP. He's requested a significant sum of money in CIP. We actually just had a protracted discussion last night around reducing a portion of his ask in CIP because, and only because, we confirmed with him that even with that reduction, he was still able to repair 3 times as many sidewalks this coming year as he was the previous year. So it is a very aggressive program. And he's indicated, obviously the way he's presented his CIP request has indicated that he will be asking for even larger sums of money in the following years. And so the council is ripe to grant a lot of the funds that perhaps they haven't in the past, notwithstanding that. And so, any new sidewalks, I think, should they be in line with our POCD in particular, given how the town has lagged in implementing large portions of that plan, ought to be given some larger consideration. I agreed with Commissioner Pasquarelli's comments in particular that sidewalks need to start somewhere. And it was clear here on this street that sidewalks had started somewhere, and then they stopped, and then they started again, and then they stopped, and so on. And so if there was an opportunity to fill those gaps, I would have hoped that the commission would have taken that opportunity, as particularly as it relates to Deming Young and the walkability there. I think all of us have, walked that street many times. Commissioner Woods, you've grown up there. So it's a beautiful space, and I think it would be enhanced by the inclusion of greater sidewalks. And this could have been a great first step in that direction. So I will leave it at that and appreciate the work that the commission does, and certainly reach out if us on the council can be of service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rose is online.
Okay. Ms. Lyons?
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I'd like to speak to the sidewalk situation. Unlike Councilor Plord, I'm pleased to see that you didn't ask the homeowner to be responsible for the sidewalks. I'm saddened to see many times, unfortunately, that this town is looking for connectivity. They're looking for walkable Newington. They've applied for so many grants. And I think there's a few grants that are still out there that we've done nothing with. And yet, last night at the town council, they cut $250,000 out of the CIP. Yes, the town engineer said he could get along without it, but do you know how many years I've been listening to CIP plans and people pushing for sidewalks? This town engineer, I don't even know that he's been here a year. I've been on Elton Drive for 75 years, and that 75 years I've been actively involved with listening to the budget, so forth and so on, for probably 15 years. And I can remember Councilor Maricchini asking that there be some sidewalks on Dowd Street. Dowd connects between Main and Willard, right by where the bus stop is, right up to Willard, where the high school is, and other places, and yet there is not a straight sidewalk from Main to Willard. So the town council may be able to cut, and the town engineer may be able to do what he wants to do with what he has, but this man has been there for less than a year, doesn't have a full staff from what I understand, and there's been always talk about sidewalks, and yet someone who has had a home, and that home's been there for many years, shouldn't, in my estimation, be expected to put sidewalks in because they want to improve the property. But that's just my vote. And it doesn't count. So on the cannabis level, I have been following this back to when it first was presented. I was there when they spoke about fine settle, and I agree with Commissioner Woods about the little spot that they were haggling over, it seems forever, about whether it was close enough or too close or not close enough. I have not been watching in the past few years, but I have been watching now. And you may have mentioned it, I don't know, but Rocky Hill, Berlin, Weathersfield, Cromwell, Farmington, and I believe that Glastonbury has none. I'm not saying that we have to rewrite the regulations, but can't we cap it at some certain amount? Yes, we have many pizza places. Yes, we have lots of car washes, and yes, they're going to come and go. Liquor stores, there's a maximum per capita, I believe, and I'm just curious if there's been any input from the police department, if there's been any issues. I know this is all new, and this is all a work in progress, and maybe it's something to think about, not so much a moratorium, but can we cap it at, say, 3, 4, whatever, stores, or I don't know how it would work out. You know more than I about the regulations, but thank you for your effort and your work on it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Anyone else in line?
No one else.
Nope, no one else.
Okay. Remarks by commissioners.
Gail,
Oh, I'm sorry, Gail. Did you want to say something? Thank you.
She usually does.
Commissioner Woods.
Yeah, I want to speak to the letter that was read into the record. Just as a commissioner who sat here now for, I think, 8 years. This commission, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm 99% sure and almost 100% sure, has never approved any open space in this town to be developed. What we have approved is undeveloped land, which has the right to be developed to move forward, which is the owner's right. We do not, this commission does not have anything to do with wetlands. But in the same time that I've been here, to my knowledge, no wetlands has been taken. And if it has been taken, it's because the Conservation Commission worked out with whoever the applicant was to allow that to happen. We don't do it. There just seems to be this mass confusion within our town that land that sat idle and undeveloped for could be hundreds of years. Now, when it gets developed, it's open space. It's not open space. It's undeveloped land. This town actually has a tremendous amount of open space in it, more than most communities. And I think the town and this council, as well as all councils in the past, have done an excellent job of preserving and actually adding to it whenever they can. It's expensive. And just like the sidewalks and Councilor Lord, with all due respect, I wasn't gonna let this go, but I can't. We just got through repaving and restriping, and I think you did a beautiful job. The town did a beautiful job on Robbins Avenue, right? From Main Street to the Britain Avenue. What didn't we do? What do you think? Sidewalks. The sidewalks are deplorable. Half the sidewalks are underwater whenever there's a rainstorm, snowstorm, ice storm. We did do some repairs. I'll be the first one to admit, we made some nice handicap entrances down to the Rosa V Blue Cross. The sidewalk should have been replaced 50 years ago. It's a daunting task, I get it, but like, wouldn't that have been the place to start? We have this beautiful road that we're trying to make pedestrian friendly, and I walk it. I walk that neighborhood. I come up around the big loop and get back down to Britain Avenue. I don't walk that in the wintertime because it's not safe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Woods. Any other commissioner comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, Commissioner Pascarelli.
If anyone's interested in open space, you're welcome to attend the meeting tomorrow that we have 4 meetings a year. The Open Space Committee is actively working to kind of work hand in hand, influence, communicate with town council and any other stakeholders in trying to do whatever we can to preserve whatever we can. We know that there isn't a lot available to preserve. It's not like there's thousands of acres of undeveloped land that like we, could just pick up. But there are oh, you never know when there's going to be an opportunity. So that's a mechanism that I think, if anyone's interested, you can follow, what we're doing. And I felt the same way, Commissioner Woods, when I read Ms. Taylor's letter, and I actually know her business. It's a really good physical therapy place if you need that. I understand the frustration because the residents just don't know who to talk to and where to go. And so I think it's fine to read a letter like that and read it into the record, because another voice for open space is really welcome, even if they don't exactly know how all of these boards and commissions work. So yeah, I think there's an appetite in this town for more preservation. So hopefully we can get that done one way or another.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Pascarelli. Any other commissioner remarks? My only comment that I have closing is that I do know that there's grants out there for sidewalks. I forgot what it's, streetscape or whatever grants, and I think we should pursue those. I agree that we do have gaps in the sidewalk, but putting 20 feet of sidewalk and 30 feet of sidewalk right now, it's not going to do anything. But I do also think that the town engineer, along with the planner and the town council, should look to see what the classifications, functional classifications of the roads are, and see where we need to get sidewalks. As Ms. Lyons said about Dow Street, and I agree with her on that. I also agree to the fact that we're looking at having to put sidewalks on Payne Road because of the apartments being put up. So I think that that's something that I will call the town engineer on and talk to them, see what, and the planner, and see what grants are out there, and we should start applying for them along with the town council. We can start closing these gaps that we need to close with some state aid and federal money maybe, and that's what I'd like to see happen. I agree that this town and Councilwoman Bedrejko and I participated, I hate to say this, many years ago in trying to make this town walkable and bicycle friendly. And we had this opportunity to get some DOT grant money, which never came about. But I think that the time is now maybe ripe to start pushing this forward on this. Just my opinion. But I will talk to both the town engineer and the planner on this and the town council. Okay? With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second, Pascarelli.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.
So I don't recall. It's important to the three of us on this. So yes, during the public participation part, when there's back and forth. With people, back and forth.
We can't hear anything.